Well, you know who's also very clever? The Russians. They actually invented many of these modern concepts when they fought the Germans. They
Right.
understand this very well. They study it, they teach it, they practice it over and over again. So we shouldn't be shocked to find out that their war plan in Ukraine is actually sort of the modern epitome of maneuver warfare concepts. For instance, how do you get the Ukrainian government to keep 100,000 troops fixed in Kiev and divert their reinforcements, their reserves that are in Western Ukraine to Kiev? How do you do that? You send 40,000 guys running down from Belarusia, you put some airborne troops in the airports near Kiev, and you force Ukrainians to react and respond. And believe me, these fights aren't easy. The Russians lost a lot of guys, but they achieved their strategic objective of holding the Ukrainians in place, forcing the Ukrainians to focus on this as a major battle. For them, it was. They don't want their capital to fall. But realistically speaking, are 40,000 troops really going to capture a city of 3.1 million? No. But they threatened it. The Ukrainians responded. What else do they do? You need to have the ability to maneuver. And so when you have forces in Crimea and then forces coming out of the Russian area near the Donbass, you have Mariupol and an entire Azov Sea coast controlled by the Ukrainians. So your forces are split. You never want your forces split. So you need to create a land bridge that connects them. And that was one of the first things the Russians did, is run up the coast, come down the Donbass. There's Mariupol, the one city where the Russians have fought. And how many troops did they commit to this? Mariupol took about 50,000 Russian troops, right, because they were fighting anywhere between 15 and 20,000 Ukrainians. So it's a major battle in Mariupol that destroyed the city, by the way. It's very tragic, it's awful fighting. But that's the city they fought for. They're not fighting for any other city. Kharkiv, again, they threatened it, not to take it. They're hitting the flanks, forcing, there it is, forcing the Ukrainians to divert forces to there. But the majority of the Ukrainian army is in the Donbass, between what you see, Luhansk and Donetsk to the west there. The majority of the Ukrainian army, about 120,000 of their best troops, are right there. And the Donetsk and Luhansk militias have fixed them in place and ground them back in a very bloody fight, but it held them in place. Now, in the meantime, the Russians are carrying out in-depth attacks. They're destroying the fuel, the ammunition, the communications, and they're grinding down.
Do you feel it's targeted? Because as you said, they've been kind of reserved in their attacks. You expected them to grind down the Ukrainians when they came in, like they usually do. But do you feel that they've been kind of more, picking their targets more carefully, just focusing on military things?
Very precise targeting, because one of their underlying objectives is to minimize civilian casualties, what I'll get to in a second, and to minimize damage to civilian infrastructure. And so they've been very targeted on this. They blow up the fuel depots, they blow up the ammunition, they blow up some barracks, they blow up. You know what they're not blowing up? Trains. I mean, look at CNN. We got, every day we get the wonderful story of people leaving Kiev on a train to Lvov. I will tell you that if I was a strategic air planner, the trains would have been blown up on day one, because I don't want mobility. I would have blown up every bridge in Ukraine so they can't move, the Ukrainians can't move their forces. I would have blown up their highways so they can't move their forces. They'd have to divert off the highways. None of this is happening. None of this is happening. The Russians are ceding some operational advantages to the Ukrainians because they don't want to destroy the infrastructure. Yes, they have blown up defense industries, but that came after the Ukrainians decided to fight, not before. It's a secondary objective. But what's happened now is that the Ukrainians have lost the ability to fight a coordinated, cohesive battle. Their major brigade, they had 24 brigade-sized mobile formations. Those have all lost the ability to function as a brigade. They've been broken down into components, forces, and right now they're defending in place, but they can't maneuver. They don't have any gas. You know what you call a tank that doesn't have any fuel? It's a coffin. What do you call an artillery piece with no ammunition? a grave. And you know what you call a soldier who's hungry, tired, and thirsty? Either dead or a prisoner. And this is what's going to happen, because that's what the objective of the Russians has been all along. Now that they've shaped the battle, controlled the battle, they don't need to threaten Kiev anymore. They have the Ukrainians up there trapped. The Russians are now pulling out their best offensive units and bringing them back down, and they're going to start punching down near Kharkiv, punching down south. They've taken those 40,000 troops that are no longer investing Mariupol, and they're bringing them up, and they're going to punch out towards Dnipro, which is right where the D in Donetsk is. And those two arrows are going to meet in the middle, and when they do, 100,000 Ukrainian soldiers are going to be trapped in a giant cauldron